thorough start for each player here. We have the natural Bridget for Kid here.
Yeah, Bridget being the best supporter turn 1 for these Zoroark decks, being able to set up all your basic Pokemon and then just explode with these Zoroark GXs on your next turn. And it's also very important that with the tech cards they're playing for their deck, with Kid being Lycanroc and Jose being Golisopod, it's two very different strategies for them. So
Mm-hmm.
Lycanroc, Bloodthirsty Eyes, amazing ability. It's definitely going to come in handy this game.
Definitely.
But one thing he has to worry about is with Jose, with Golisopod, it's a card that will stick around a little bit. It kind of has some staying power. It's a roll that can bring it back up, but it's a heavy hitter for one grass energy. This impression could do 120 damage.
Right.
And Lycanroc's also weak to grass.
Exactly.
And there we see a fighting energy onto the Rockruff on the bench, and a
Alolan
Alolan Grimer
Grimer.
as well. Again, this is a card that facilitates Alolan Muck, and Alolan Muck has its ability to shut off all basic abilities in play, discard, and in your hand, and it's really there for that Sudowoodo.
Yes, and now we see Jose's turn has come. Start. Doesn't he seems to have Bridget in hand? It looks like,
Yeah, Bridget in hand. We also see an N,
and
so he has a few different options, and
as well as an Ultra
naturally
Ball.
he is at sort of a disadvantage going second because that means Kid will be able to get all his evolutions in play first. So Bridget hits the field.
Gonna go. Looks like for a Wimpod. I'm gonna say two Wimpods here. What do you think the third will be?
Probably a Zora. It really depends what he chooses to do. Sudowoodo is a great tech card, especially in this matchup, but when your opponent is showing that Alolan Grimer turn 1, if you get it, you're kind of at a disadvantage.
Exactly. So we do see he went for the Wimpod.
Wimpod and I
It's hard to tell with the
I
glare. I
think
think it's a
it's
Zorua.
double Wimpod Zorua.
Yes.
And again, this is good, but being second doesn't really benefit him right now. He might even lose a Zorua depending on what Kid has in his hand.
But this is all assuming Kid can find his evolutions.
Yeah, but it's
More often than
yeah, it's
not.
more often than not like Zoroark GX as a deck is just so consistent. Once you get one in play, usually they just keep rolling one after another.
Mhm.
And Kid's turn, I believe I see a one Zoroark in hand at least, and a double colorless. That means he will be able to take a knockout this turn.
But
There,
not before a trade for with that Oricorio. Do you see him shuffling through? He does have that DCE, like you said. He's going to Getsus.
all right, this doesn't hurt Jose too
Too
bad.
much.
Oh, it looks like one card got flipped over,
Yep.
but he does have that N in his hand, so Jose's hand's still pretty good. It's Zoroark, double colorless, and the N, so he will be able to recover even from this knockout, but he's still gonna be down a little bit.
There have been worse fates on these streams, but you definitely do not want to be down 3 cards.
Yeah, exactly. And now Kid will know that Jose most likely will end next turn, so he's going to try to play out his hand to the fullest, and he's definitely going to look for another Zoroark, at least if he has, but nope, there we go. Riot is speeding, takes the knockout on the Zorua. Kid Starck has started off top 8 with the first prize.
Here goes down that DCE and that Zoroark, exactly how we thought it would go with those 3 cards.
Pretty
Pretty
much
much
nothing else you can
nothing
play.
else to do. And so we will get a hand refresh for Jose with 6. Kid will get 5.
Yeah, that is the one downfall of taking a prize so early is these ends will kind of punish you, but thankfully, Zorak's pretty good at
Yeah,
counteracting that. Pretty good.
especially when you have like few in play. See what Jose has. We do see a Bridget, which he can trade away as he did. One of the perks of playing multiple Bridgets in these Zoroark decks that we've started to see since London Internationals that they're just great trade fodder.
Yeah, so basically the way Bridget has evolved in the metagame, when it came out, it was not played at all. It was an EX heavy format Bridget can only really get one EX or three non-EX Pokemon.
It was only really played in one deck, and that was Gallade-Octillery.
Sure, the
And
the one deck
the
you
one deck.
played.
Well, no, it was piloted by Russell Lepar
Yeah.
and all of that, but it was the only deck that could properly utilize it. It was a card that everyone thought was garbage.
Yeah, and then Tapu Lele came out, Wonder Tag giving access to virtually any supporter you can think of, and all the GXs, you're like, well, oh wait, Bridget can get three GXs? Oh, they can get
Spicy.
GXs and these basic Pokemon for these stage 1 GXs? Alright, I'll play a Bridget. Just one, because I don't want any more.
You don't need more, but now that we have a way to get more cards, and we don't have to discard any resources, this is fantastic.
Yeah, why not play 2-3 Bridget, just in case one's prized?
Right.
And meanwhile, Jose has been at it with his turn. Ultra Ball discarding some cards, getting another Zorua. Remember, the first one got knocked out. He will need to keep replacing those, even in the face of a Lycanroc threat. But it's kind of that simple trade where if Kid tries to bring up Lycanroc to attack, and Jose's like, oh, well, okay, Golisopod, I got this guy. He's pretty good.
So it looks like Kid is he does actually go for the Shaman for the trade. Draws two. His bench is completely full and here we go with a
Skyfield.
Skyfield.
Bench is completely full until you play awesome stadium Skyfield, being able to bench up to 3 extra Pokemon.
Well, with that choice band, he's going to be a heavy hitter now.
Out with a full bench and the choice band, he will be able to take the knockout on the Zoroark, and that would put Jose at a supreme disadvantage.
Especially since he has not been able to find a single Golisopod yet.
Yeah, exactly. And here we see the Ultra Ball looking through his deck, making sure he has enough basics as well. And this, you're like, well, you would think he would go get Zoroark, but he really wants this knockout.
Does.
And depending what's in his hand, he might already have it. This is also where cards like Execute come in handy as well, but unfortunately I think it's still in his deck.
But he does go for the Alolan Grimer to add that one more Pokemon to his bench to make his Zoroark even more powerful.
So now he has 7 Pokemon in play, dealing base 140 damage with Riotous Beating. With the Choice Band, he's dealing 170. And there is a Colress drawing 9 cards. It's an alright Colress.
It's not 16.
It's not 16.
But it's also not 3.
I'm impressed when you guys Colress were 16. Nothing else. It's alright.
Back in the day, you used to give a high five if you did a Colress for 16.
And
that was usually just during a Mega Ray mirror match.
Alright. Drawing up to those 9
Looks
cards.
like he ended up with another Zoroark in hand, which will come in handy for more trades to dig deeper and fill that bench with more attackers.
Remember, all he needs is 2 more basic Pokemon, and there is an Execute in his hand. That's the ultimate facilitator for this deck. Being able to trade for free, being able to bench an extra Pokemon for free.
Does go for that Alolan Muck possibly here.
Alright, so this is interesting because Kid has to sequence this perfectly right if he wants to take the knockout, because remember, if he needs to Execute to put on the bench, he needs the propagation before he evolves into the Alolan Muck.
Goes for the Zoroark. He's getting his Execute back, trading it away. Right back to the discard, getting a puzzle and another Ultra Ball.
Man, this turn has been shaping up beautifully for Kid. A third Zoroark GX in play. There has been so many cards drawn. The 9 from the Colress, 6 from different trades.
This kid is unstoppable.
I get it. I get it. All right.
But honestly, this is shaping up to be a really good setup for him.
Yeah, and it looks like he has another Zorua in hand along with that Execute. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the full 8 bench. With the Choice Band, he is doing 210 damage.
And the Muck dropped.
All right, this is perfect setup for Kid right now. Because remember, the one way Jose can counteract this is Sudowoodo, but can't block a road. that is this full speed ahead.
That's true. But it does look like he has drawn into
Execute.
execute. Sadly, that won't help much.
Yeah, exactly. With this Alolan Muck and having 3 Zoroark in play, there's not really much he can do because even if he tries to find a way to take a knockout, which is very unlikely, there's no Gliscod in play. And remember, its first impression attack only does more damage if the Gliscod was brought up.
Right.
And that's going to be even harder to do without your supporter for the turn, like a Guzma. So that means Zoroark is just going to keep hitting for 210, 210, 210. That's how much HP Gliscod and Zoroark have.
Is it 210?
You're correct. Alright, so this N will put Kid down to 3, but with 3 Zoroarks in play, N is kind of a useless card.
Just a bit, but it does slow him down a little bit because you wouldn't dig as much.
Alright, so here we see the Gliscod drop down for Jose. Does have the double colorless, so we could see something like a crossing cut GX. But other than that, I think that would be the only way he could take a knockout.
Do you see the trade?
Gliscod is such a powerful card, but when you're staring down this much damage output, it really kind of puts a strain on it, and especially so it's going to retreat to the bench. That's usually a good thing. But when your opponent has 2 Rockruff in play and access to Lycanrocs, it's going to really kind of be troubling.
He
And Jose, think armor pressed for the knockout.
did.
So that's one good thing. He's lowering the damage by 20. So he will survive unless something like a Ranger is played. Which, looking at Kid's list, he does play a Pokemon Ranger. So he would need the perfect number of cards to take this knockout. But if he does, it has to almost be game over.
Honestly, it seemed like there aren't many outs here for Jose.
And we do see that Rockruff being put in the active spot.
Trading a Bridget away, drawing it looks like to be a Zoroark. See stand-in Zoroark played down, well as a Floatstone.
That is pretty good when you're trying to maneuver around all these Pokemon in play. And remember, Alolan Grimer is out, but it doesn't shut off any stage 1s. There's another trade. We see a Shaman. It doesn't help for drawing, but it does help for damage.
That's right. Does need one more Pokemon for that full power Righteous Beating should he choose to use it.
Yeah, Riotous Beating is such a good attack, especially paired with Skyfield. There's a Tapu Lele, but again, no Wonder Tag, so he is not able to search for that Pokemon Ranger, and he still needs a double colorless as well.
But Colress for 10 seems pretty decent.
Again, it's alright.
He is going to dig fairly deep with those 10 cards and possibly hit that energy that is necessary.
He is, but so what he wants now, since he's not going to be able to take the knockout on the Golisopod, thanks to Armor Press from Jose, he's really looking for a Lycanroc so he can Bloodthirsty Eyes, bring up the Zoroark on the bench and take a knockout. And judging from these 10 cards that Kid drew, there's an Ultra Ball and a double colorless, so I think that's what we're going to see. Even see Pokemon Communication in his hand as well, I believe. And I've been singing the praises of Pokemon Communication throughout this whole tournament. It's just such a card that's paired nicely in the format, especially with all these Pokemon heavy decks.
So we see him go back into his deck, get that Lycanroc GX. Just like you said, we're going to see that Bloodthirsty Eyes drawing up a new Pokemon.
Yeah, and when you have a Zoroark Golisopod deck, when all your Zoroarks get knocked out, and you're just stuck with a Golisopod deck, it's not where you want to be playing. And one thing to remember, I believe the Rockruff had to retreat, but it doesn't matter with stand-in. And oh, he's just gonna Claw Slash, not even trying to put up the Zoroark GX.
I actually don't mind that play.
And we see an Ultra Ball for a Shaman, just trying to thin out his deck as best he could. And again, that's what Zoroark does best, is thin out your deck, leaving only the cards that you want to draw in there or in your hand.
There we go. Down to one prize for Kid here.
And you may be thinking, well, why did Kid attack with the Grass Weak Pokemon against a Grass Pokemon on Jose's Island Field? But he has one prize left.
Right.
There's a little tiny Wimpod on the bench.
Exactly. And with his deck so thin now, chances of finding what he needs right away, pretty good.
And there we see an Ultra Ball from Jose, discarding a Zoroark GX, a card he doesn't really need right now. Of course, he needs it in play, but he can't play it, so. And it looks like trying to opt for a Puzzle of Time maybe as well.
But instead going for the Enhanced Hammer.
Yeah, that's one card that throughout our stream games we haven't really seen played, is
Right.
Enhanced Hammer, which you think is crazy because everyone's playing 4 double colorless in their deck,
Right.
and they're not really playing much else. And we saw in Memphis, Azul actually played 4 Enhanced Hammer in his Gliscod Garbodor deck and took it to a second place finish.
Right.
And it was so powerful. But now it's kind of fallen by the wayside just because sometimes you're stuck with those in your hand against certain matchups where they don't play any special energy.
Right. For example, Greninja was heavy for a while, so people kind of stopped playing them.
Yeah.
Despite them having splash energies, it wasn't like terribly necessary in the matchups.
And we even saw the 3 Garbodor decks in Top Cut. They just opt for a Pokemon that does it as its attack anyway,
Exactly.
and Drampa GX. And there we see an N putting Kid down to 1 card. And they will take a knockout on this Lycanroc, most likely with Armor Press, and might be trying to mount a little bit of a comeback here.
Might be.
Yeah, with this knockout, it put him down to 2 prizes. He has these 2 pretty beefy Gliscods. Granted, Kid only needs another Pokemon, a Lycanroc, and a double colorless to, and I guess he needs a Choice Band now too.
Right. But Jose really only needs a Grass Energy at the end of this for his second Gliscod should the one that's promoted be knocked out.
Yeah, exactly. Armor Press is putting in a lot of work here too. That reducing of 20 damage next turn means Gliscod essentially has 230 HP.
Right.
Now 210, the Zoroark deck can kind of hit that a little bit consistently, but
It's much
230?
harder to hit 230 and above.
yeah. All right, and he still has access to his GX attack as well, and he's been playing around Kid's GX attack, which is Dangerous Rogue,
Right.
which is amazing. I love because Dangerous Rogue is very dangerous. And just dealing 50 damage times the number of bench Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field. Well, Jose only has one bench
One.
Pokemon, one active
Yeah.
Pokemon. That's pretty much it. Alright, so 2 trades have come down from Kid. Can he find what he needs? It's kind of taken a swing right now. Gliscod's being a little tanky.
You see the Rescue Stretcher for the Lycanroc GX played down, bringing up the Gliscod without the Grass Energy.
Alright, here's the Versus Seeker. Getting Colress. He already has the Pokemon Colress, so he needs to draw off these 9 cards a Choice Band and a double colorless. Granted, he could draw some Puzzle Times. Those would help.
Those would help. There are multiple options in his deck that could help.
Alright, here we go.
Looks
Does
like-
he get the cards he needs to take the game?
You see the double colorless in his hand.
We did, but I don't know if he got a Choice Band. See, one Puzzle Time,
Yeah,
maybe if he has the second one, but kind of think you just like play it down right now.
Right. But like I said in earlier games, order of operation, you do have to think through. This is top 8. There's so much on the line.
Exactly, $5,000 for first place,
Unreal.
and of course, championship points. The bragging power of winning the largest Masters regionals ever.
And the glory of it all. Not to mention an interview with us.
Yeah, that is the best prize of all, is being talked to by one of us. 'Cause we're great.
We really are.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see. I really don't think he has
I
it off
don't think
those
he
9
does.
cards.
We would have seen it by now. It seems like he's just trying to figure out what to do. See his possible stand-in.
But that means if he doesn't have it, that is a lone Guzma could take the game off the
Yes.
Lycanroc, and Kid, who's been ahead this whole game, could just see it slip away from him.
That's the thing with these Zoroark decks. They come back, they fall back. It's anyone's game most of the time. You could be ahead 5 prizes to 1.
Yeah, and this is all because he does not have that choice band, the card that is so powerful against these GX decks.
Yes. We see him promote the sacrificial Bunnelby.
Yeah, like there's no Wailord and cut anymore.
Right.
This Bumblebee is not pretty good, so let's here.
It's good trade fodder.
Don't draw the Guzma, and then I'll be fine.
Exactly. Jose seems to be kind of.
Yeah, he has that double puzzle, but I don't know if he has a Guzma in his
I
discard.
don't believe he does, but he does have that DCE that he is eyeing right now. Doesn't have a basic grass, so still needs to dig for that somehow.
This is kind of heartbreaking. Without access to Tapu Lele the entire game, thanks to a Alolan Muck, he really has been strangleholded on his supporter options.
Yes, relying on just the draw of his deck.
And you have to be happy if you're Kid here, seeing, oh, my opponent didn't have Guzma for game. Okay, we can try to work with this a little bit. And you see the second double colorless coming down on the Glyspod. That is because this guy has 3 retreat costs.
He is a bulky bug.
He is a bulky bug. So, and coming down out, this will actually kind of hurt Jose more than it helps him, ending himself only down to 2 cards.
And with no Zoroark GX in play for him, he can't get any more.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Kid has 2 of those Zoroarks in play, so he will be able to replenish his hand. There we see the retreat cost being put into full effect. 2 double colors hit the discard. Glyspod becomes active, and
takes out the Bunnelby
with an armor press again. So that reducing 20 damage. Now action is back on Kid. They're essentially just a couple of cards or a few cards away from winning in each of these turns, and they keep missing it just barely.
But Kid has his trade.
Alright, and Zoroark trading again. Does Kid have it?
I don't think he does.
And again, with Jose only having this lone Glyspod on bench, he's really been playing this matchup pretty well to his outs.
He has. It's been a very defensive play from Jose. See a second trade coming in possibly from Kid. Baiting it right now. Does go for it. Getting rid of a choice band.
Which is funny because that's the choice band he needed to find a couple turns ago.
Right. So as of right now, he got a VS Seeker off of it. Not sure that really helps much.
Right. It's really just deep in the tank. These are very important turns. Remember, this is game one of top eight. Winning this means you really take advantage in the ability to go first in game three if it gets to that.
It's true. Okay, we're looking through some discards, making sure our accounts are right, seeing what each other has. Always good practice.
And remember, Kid is very worried that Jose has access to a Guzma, but now he needs a Guzma and a way to retreat the Glide Spot. But there is double puzzle of time from Kid.
Currently searching through his discard, looking what he can get. Looks like he's going for the DC. And what else will he get?
Choice Band might have to be one of them, but he also might just need more resources for later on in the game. He's eyeing that Getsus.
As well as a puzzle.
So
So he goes for the puzzle and the DCE, it seems.
you see this play often when you have to puzzle early or discard a puzzle off of a Sycamore or something like that,
Right.
where you only have 3 left. But if you puzzle time for a puzzle of time, that means the last one in your deck becomes live again.
Right. So we do see the VS Seeker come down for that Getsus.
Right, this will be interesting because Getsus might hit Jose's hand, and it is all
Wow.
3 cards.
Jose
He
has
had the
no
Floatstone
hands.
too if he top decked the Guzma.
That is really bad news for Jose.
Right, so this is interesting because remember, he still has access to Crossing Cut GX, so he can sort of retreat the Glide Spot still while doing damage, and then hope to draw the Guzma again. But Kid has to be feeling good. My opponent has 0 cards in hand. Sure, they have a fully powered Glide Spot, but it's going to be heavily damaged with this Riotous Beating.
Right. And the chances of grabbing an Ace Roll off that top deck. Jose has a very thick deck compared to the Kid. It's gonna be a slim chance.
Yeah, when Kid's been trading multiple times a turn all game, and Jose's just been, I'll draw an attack, you still have all that stuff that you don't want in your deck.
Jose sadly did not get what he wanted with that Acerola, but he did go for a Crossing Cut GX.
There
There's
is the
the
Guzma.
Guzma.
That is game. Kid Starck wins game one of top 8. 1 game away from moving on to the top 4. And Jose will now need to mount a comeback, having to win games 2 and 3.
Shouldn't be too hard though for Jose. These decks are fairly evenly matched.
Yeah, so Kid has access to the Bloodthirsty Eyes, which makes it a little bit easier for him to kind of manipulate Jose's bench, manipulate
Right.
his attackers, and what he actually tries to power up.
He gets to pick and choose.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jose has that natural weakness from Lycanroc to prey off of.
Right.
So it kind of punishes him if he actually chooses to go the Lycanroc route, which we kind of saw early on.
Right.
He had to attach a double colorless to Lycanroc to Claw Slash for the knockout because he didn't have that choice band. So not having the choice band there meant Jose was like, oh, well, I'm going to try to come back. Armor Press is pretty good when you only cap at 210 damage.
Exactly.
And unfortunately for Jose, he just wasn't able to draw the Gizmo when he needed to.
That muck put him in a sticky situation where he wasn't able to set up with those Lele's. He wasn't able to use anything that was basic that had an ability, which really stunted his setup.
Yeah, exactly. And thankfully for Jose, he does get to go first for game 2. That is the one advantage of losing a game in Pokemon.
And like we've said, going first has such an advantage in this game. You get to basically set up before your opponent. You could evolve before your opponent. There are so many things you get to do before your opponent just by going first.
Exactly, and we do see a mulligan from Kid. That means an extra card for Jose here. And more cards is always better.
Seems he has at least from what I can see, Jose has a DCE in hand and a basic grass.
He has a couple double colorless in hand.
Okay.
I think he started with a Zorua from Kid. No,
Oh,
but again, that hand would have been amazing.
amazing.
There was a Zoroark, a Lycanroc, a Bridget. He's already starting off on a bad foot, giving Jose 2 extra cards, and usually, most of the time, it's like, okay, well, if I'm going first and I'm mulliganing a few times,
It's
I'm
fine.
gonna at least try to end them so they don't
Right.
have that just insane card advantage. But
It's another advantage of going first. And your opponent mulligans, you don't get end. You get to actually utilize those extra cards.
exactly, and we see the hand from Kid right here has the Zorua start with a Shaman and a couple Skyfield. Like, it's not really looking good. He might have to rely on the setup ability to try to get things going.
Right.
Meanwhile, Jose has a grip of cards in his hand. And
You see.
unfortunately,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
We were talking about Kid trying to end Jose out of the extra cards from the mulligan, but Jose had so many cards in his hand that were just
Nothing.
unplayable turn 1 that he just had to end all that mulligans
That's
away.
such a shame, but he could come back with a stronger hand just from this end.
Yeah, but putting himself on the back foot, not being able to use Bridget turn 1, it will kind of force him to naturally draw some of these basics.
Right.
Meanwhile, looking at
Meanwhile,
Kid's
he
hand,
did pull that
Kid's hand
Bridget.
is looking good.
Did get one Wimpod, but it's fun to note that he did end up getting that Bridget.
And here we see he's might do the desperation puzzle of time.
Ooh.
Looking at the top 3, like, well, I kind of need to draw a little bit better instead of try to hold this for late game because
Right.
I want to get to the late game first.
Sometimes you just need to make those desperate plays to keep going.
Right
And
there.
from Kid, we see the natural Bridget.
There it is. Bridget is likely getting Zorua, Rockruff, and either your choice of another Zorua or Rockruff. Oh, there's a Lone Grammar. I completely forgot about the card. The card's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Kind of one of the MVPs of
But
last
he
game.
does have a Zorua in hand, so he will probably be going for a Rockruff. A second Rockruff or that Grimer.
Zorua is such a cute Pokemon.
It is.
All right, there we go. One of each. And Kid is looking pretty for his turn 1. Already starts off better. When you see your opponent go, all right, I'm going to end, not really play anything, and then puzzle time, look at my top 3. Like, you might get a false sense of confidence as well.
Will.
Another Zorua hits the bench. Double colorless on the Rockruff.
And a pass over to Jose. Did draw a DCE. He does have a Gliscopod in hand, so...
He drew the Ultra Ball. Just putting it on top. Ultra Ball likely will get
a
Tapu Lele.
Looks like he already has the Wonder Tag for the Sycamore. From his 0 card hand to 7. Not bad.
This is good. This is good. Colress, you have to do the 16. Sycamore, no cards in hand.
That's the high 5
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, that's the high 5. All right, Jose refreshing his hand, looking for a Floatstone or even just a Zoroark double colorless energy. He really wants to start taking a knockout on these Zoruas, using that advantage of going first in this game. I do see a Zoroark.
Looks like there is another Wimpod to put as a Pokemon down to cause more damage. Trades away a Sycamore for a basic grass energy. And there is
an enhanced hammer. Getting rid of the double colorless Kid put down on the Rockruff. Essentially saving this Zoroark for a turn. Because granted, it's his only one. He wants to keep it in play.
Right.
And when your opponent could try to Bloodthirsty Eyes and knock it out with a Claw Slash, getting rid of the energy is amazing.
VS Seeker's back for that Sycamore that he just traded away. You have the promoted Gliscopod knocking out that Zorua.
At first impression, being an amazing attack. If you have Gliscopod move from your bench to your active in the same turn, it does 120 damage for just a single grass energy. But here on Kid's side of the field,
See a trade. It's a Shaman and Lysander, it looked like?
Choice Band.
Choice Band. They look
All
nothing.
right, Choice Band is a good card to have in this matchup. It allows you to hit those perfect numbers with Riotous Beating, and it does take quite a few cards to get to. But
But we
double puzzle time.
double puzzling for the Zorua and a
Double colorless.
TC attaching to that Zoroark that is in the active position, then going with that Choice Band, just beefing up that Zoroark. See Pokemon Communication come into play. Going to grab a possible Lycanroc.
Lele.
Lele, okay. Those rainbow rares are very hard to read.
Alright, and there is the Colress
Colress.
from the Wonder Tag.
For 7.
Let's see what Kid Starck has as his last card in hand. Alright, Kid had that Shaman for the setup for 5 cards. And he does have the Lycanroc as well. He could choose to Bloodthirsty Eyes something if he wants. And I think another
He has
double
to double puzzle again.
Man, Puzzle Time is such a great card, but it's especially great when you could play 4 of them in one turn.
Yes, but he does choose to Colress.
Yeah, one thing he was missing was that Skyfield Stadium card, allowing him to get that full 8 bench, which he would need for the knockout. So he's like, okay, well, I'd rather not waste these then if I don't have that Skyfield.
Right.
So let's just get 8 cards.
He does draw the Skyfield though.
Right, but now we need those Pokemon. I believe there's an Execute in the discard. Does he have access to everything he needs? I know there might be another Alolan Grimer in his hand.
It does look like he potentially has it. Here goes down the Skyfield.
This is crazy. Being able to hit these perfect numbers so early on, this Zoroark deck is just insanely consistent.
Do have a Ultra Ball being played for one of those Pokemon to help find and fill out that bench.
We could even see another Shaman EX here to keep the ball rolling.
And we do see that Shaman EX for a that will be setting up, hitting him approximately 4 cards.
Depending if I know there's a Float Stone he might want to play.
Right. Which he does onto that Grimer.
And set up for 5 cards. All he needs is a basic Pokemon.
Did he get it?
It looks like he drew that Ultra Ball, which, if he uses it, that spells disaster for Jose. Losing a Golisopod so early on as well.
That's not good.
Kid has been putting on a clinic for Zoroark fans here.
Yes, and like we said earlier, this deck, Lycanroc Zoroark, dominated Memphis. It's a very strong deck. In both.
No, maybe we misread it. It does not look like he has the last Pokemon.
So he just hits for 170, just shy of that knockout.
Yeah, 180 total, and this is where Lyspod kind of shines, because if Jose has access to Acerola, it's a card that allows you to bring up your damaged Pokemon and all cards attached to it. It's kind of Glyspod's best friend.
Yes. He's debating on playing a VS Secret, looked like. Instead goes to trade the Sycamore away.
I think I see another Enhanced Hammer in Jose's
Ew.
hand. That is such a great card in these Zoroark mirror matches. And there is the Acerola picking up that Golisopod.
Promoting that Zoroark with the Float Stone. dropping that Wimpod back down to the bench, evolving the other Wimpod, and the cycle of pods continues.
Exactly. This is what the deck does best, and while you don't really get these one-shots on the Zoroark GXs like Kid's deck may do, you are able to get rid of their energy, force them to dig through their deck a little more, and burn more resources while you just like,
Alright, come back to
that's
hand,
okay, yeah.
and then another friend will come back later.
Alright.
We see a trade, nope. We're trading a Bridget. We end up with a Lycanroc? Yes.
Oh, that's another
This is Zoroark. All look the same.
Alright, trade discarding that Pokemon Ranger, a card that you don't really need as of right now, but late game it might come in handy to combat that armor press attack from Golisopod.
But thankfully, we do have VS Seeker in this format, where it's not an issue that we get discarded it, should he still have some VS Seekers.
Right, and remember, he needs another Pokemon and the double colorless to actually take a knockout on Golisopod. Or else Jose might just be able to Acerola again.
Right. But we see Kohler's go. He's getting 11?
Yeah, so there's 7 and 4. It's 11. Yeah.
Math after a long day of casting.
Simple math. All right, 11 cards going into Kid's hand. There's the double
DCE.
colorless. And I believe he also got a Alolan Muck as well. It'd be a card to save him from Sudowoodo drop later on in the game. One thing you always want to try to keep in mind is how many Pokemon you're actually using, and if your opponent plays a Sudowoodo, you're going to discard all those Pokemon.
Correct.
And then you're just going to need to refill them again. So getting out that Muck early on really puts you at an advantage.
Does. We see another Rockruff come onto the bench to fill that 8th slot. This is now a fully powered Zoroark that will be hitting 4 to 10. We also see the Muck come into play, so all basic Pokemon abilities have been shut off.
And here we see the Riotous Beating for 210 damage. The big Papa coming down, knocking out Golisopod in one hit.
Not even Acerola can save it now.
This is where you need like bodybuilding dumbbells or something like that. Plus 40 HP. Alright, second Zoroark coming down for Jose. He does have to try to mount a comeback here.
But it's going to be rough.
A Rockruff. Alright,
I set him up and you knock him down.
So this Getsus is only getting 3 cards out of this massive like 10 card hand from Kid.
And honestly, no big deal. He trades. It's not going to be an issue.
But Jose is definitely looking for a Golisopod at least to take this knockout.
Right. Honestly, if he doesn't find it, I'm not sure it'll be ideal. We'll be able to come back.
Does not seem that his hand is suited for it. He might have access to one more trade.
Which we do see Oricorio traded away for what we hope to be 2 more Pokemon. A Golisopod for in one of those 2 cards, and it's not.
He does get that Field Blower though. And oh, there's an Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball for Golisopod. He will be able to take a knockout this turn, put himself down to 3 prizes.
Mm-hmm.
He also has a Field Blower for the Skyfield if he chooses to. It would definitely put Kid starting over again. He has to reset. Like, okay, well, I need another Skyfield. I need 3 more Pokemon.
He does have those 2 Puzzles of Time in his deck still. I recall correctly.
Yeah, he shuffled them back in with the course that one turn.
Right. So he does have ways to reset back up should this happen. But it's still a pain.
Golisopod comes down. Zoro as well. There's the Field Blower. Getting rid of Floatstone and Skyfield. Kid now has to choose which Pokemon to discard. You always have to be careful because you have those rock roughs. You have the Grimer though as well. Like maybe
The shamans are usually a liability at
yeah,
times, so those I would say are gonna go.
Shamans, and it looks like the Tapu Lele as well,
Yes.
leaving just a bunch of basic Pokemon and a Zoroark GX on Kid's bench.
There we see the Golisopod promoted and knocking out that Zoroark GX, bringing Jose down to 3 prizes to Kid's 4 prizes. A pretty even game right now.
Yes, even game. Kid has been kind of far ahead a little bit, but right now it's kind of been going through a couple of his resources. While Jose is just kind of been keeping steady. He now has a couple Zoroark GX in play, has a Zoro to try to get another one as well, and he still has access to Crossing Cut GX.
Alright, we do see a trade. There is a Pokemon communication.
Oh, we see a Getsus brought to the front of Kid's hand as well. Could be something to get a little bit of information from him.
There is also a DCE in hand should he want to attach to the Zoroark.
Right? His hand is pretty good, but I don't know if I see the Skyfield as well. That's
Or a
another
way
card.
to get the
Yeah.
Skyfield. Because he has used his trade, I think.
Yeah, that is one thing of note. That Kid only has that one Zoroark in play, and
Oh
this
my
is
gosh!
another Getsus for the full hand for Jose. Oh my gosh, how heartbreaking!
But
Getting the whole hand
the
shuffled
whole
back
hand
in.
is shuffled away, but he does have 2 Zoroarks.
Yes, he does.
So he can start a trade
So
cycle
it's
there.
not as bad as last game.
He has potential at least. He isn't going to be stuck with just 1 card no matter what when he starts his turn. He could trade that 1 card into 2.
And then those 2 cards into 3.
Exactly. You can build it at least. I have done it before, sadly.
Build it and they will come. And by they, I mean Guzma's. Alright, Kid is mapping out his turn. You see some people do this with cards like Ultra Ball and Computer Search, and when you have a hand as big as this, you are bound to have a lot of those cards.
You need to have the proper sequencing. Because sometimes you'll accidentally shut off your abilities. So we see him computer searching, getting rid of a
Field Blower and an N. Alright, so this does give you access to Skyfield. Remember, he's trying to hit that perfect 210 damage.
Need.
Right, Skyfield, double colorless. I think he has a choice band in his hand as well. But the real question is, he needs 4 Pokemon.
He has Pokemon communication in hand, and it does look like he does have some sort of Pokemon that he can use Pokemon communication with.
He has that Lycanroc in hand. He has an Ultra Ball as well, or a Zoroark.
And we see the stand-in Zoroark go back into the deck. He brings out a Zorua. Taking it into his deck, he also has his Execute still.
Alright, there's an Ultra Ball as well. Another Pokemon, that means he just needs 2 more. Can he do it though?
See?
He could be going for the Tapu Lele because he does have that Lycanroc in hand. Bloodthirsty Eyes would be able to take the knockout on the Tapu Lele, and then could, in a couple turns, try to take out a knockout on a Zoroark or even the Glycopod.
We do see the Lycanroc GX come down. Bloodthirsty Eyes, that Lele up.
Man, I'm pretty good. Alright, there is the Riotous Beating for 170 damage. Alright, maybe not that good. 170 damage, taking the knockout on the Tapu Lele. Kid is now down to 2 prize cards remaining. Jose with just 1 card in his hand now after the Getsus.
And it's a puzzle.
You never really want to discard Puzzle of Times, but you have to when it's your only card in hand.
It looks like he ended up with a Rescue Stretcher as well as another puzzle, but I was not yes, he did end up with another puzzle. But it does look like
That
he
is heartbreaking.
looks like he did draw a possible Zoroark, but I'm not too sure.
Spin the wheel again. Is that what we're going to try to do?
Let's see.
And now
Oh,
remember, the way Jose's
there's
deck
the
is
Zoroark.
built, he doesn't have that one-hit knockout potential on opposing Zoroark GXs. So he will be on the back foot here.
He did trade away a Zorua for that trade, which I thought was interesting.
Well, he
He
doesn't.
doesn't.
Glycepod's going to be his
Right,
main attacker.
right,
There's
right,
no doubts about it. Just because with Lycanroc in play as well, you don't want to put your Zoroarks active,
right.
and also you want to hit for weakness as well. So there we see the first impression for 120 damage. But now it's on Kit. He does have the possibility to win this turn. Just needs 2 Pokemon. That's it. And
Two
with
Pokemon away from going to top 4.
all right, trade. There is 2 Versus Seekers. Now I know he has Bridget in his discard pile, but the real question is, does he have enough Pokemon in his deck?
There is at least one Execute.
There is an Execute, but the deck's not very big. It looks like, what, 8 cards, 7 cards?
You're right.
If he guesses wrong and it gives Jose an opening, granted not a big one, but it's still an opening.
There's the potential of the no, there's not. He does have the Alolan Grimer already out. I'm not sure he has the second Pokemon.
Did he use those 2 puzzles as well? He is eyeing the Bridget, so like, okay, 6. Got to think this through, because this is 4 game. You don't want to make a mistake and try to hinder your chances. It looks like for a big Colress, could choose to Colress and draw his entire deck.
Bloodthirsty eyes up the Zoroark with no energy.
And there is the Colress for 9 cards. He needs 2 Pokemon to win the game.
Can he do it?
And it'll be interesting to see how many cards he actually has in his deck. All right, I think maybe that
There's
was a
an
Rescue
Execute
Stretcher.
and a Rescue Stretcher.
No, or an Ultra Ball.
Oh, he has the Rescue Stretcher.
Okay, there it is. That is game.
And the Execute.
Rescue Stretcher means 7 Pokemon. Execute means 8 Pokemon. Ride is beating for 210 damage. And that is a 2-0. Kid Starck defeats Jose Marrero. And it moves on to top 4. It is our first top 4 player. And he has put on a clinic.
It's a fantastic match.
Yeah, hitting 210 multiple times. And Jose did try to mount that comeback game 1. Even was 1 card